Welcome back to Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Man, it feels so good to finally be able to say that. Last time we joined the Dawn Brigade in Dayan 3 years later, and we're about to find out just what's been going on in Tellius and especially Dayan overall, because we're going to be getting our first map narration segments. There's a reason why I did voiceover for the map narration in the previous game, because in this game, the map sequences are actually voice acted, and it's some of the few bits of decent voice acting in the game, so take it away, announcer guy.
Tellius, the year 648, early summer. The northeastern nation of Dayan lost a bloody war with neighboring Crimea 3 years ago. Crimea, however, abdicated its right to rule Dayan, and passed sovereignty of its former enemy to the powerful Benyan Empire. Dayan's future is now subject to the whims of the Empire. Benyan's occupation forces have gathered all Dayan men of fighting age and put them to work in labor camps. Their work is brutal and void of purpose, designed to break both body and spirit. The remaining population faces poverty and starvation as the fields lie fallow. A band of young heroes has escaped the Benyan army to form a group called the Dawn Brigade. Fighting for a free Dayan, they alone have stood against Benyan's forces. They alone have shouldered the hopes of their nation. Among the company is a young girl named Micaiah, who is said to possess mystical powers. The people of Dayan have come to know her as the Silver-Haired Maiden. They have come to think of her as the savior for whom they had been waiting. Benyan's forces have tried time and again to capture and silence the Dawn Brigade. However, Micaiah's ability to sense impending danger has thus far allowed the Dawn Brigade to evade the Empire's grasp.
She and Schultz should compare notes sometime. Hold up a minute, I'm gonna pause the narration there, so I can mention something. Remember back in Path of Radiance when we were in Dayan and Soren was giving us all those warnings about what happens when a country loses the war? It took everything in my power to resist saying anything at that point in the game, because Soren was right. Completely right. He could have been less of a jerk about it, but he had a point, and we should have listened to him. This is definitely a step down from, say, the Shepherd's Garrison. Yeah. So we're facing the consequences of our actions here. Leonardo thinks we're in the right. But that was pretty bad. Admittedly, abandoning this hideout might not be a bad thing in the grand scheme of things. Blame Ike, he was the one who pretty much forced this situation on you when he was like, oh yeah, no, let's have Benyan rule Dayan. And Soren tried to warn him, but no, Ike wouldn't listen. One of the few times Soren was actually right. And yeah, here's some So this game has a lot of info dumps for the sake of people who didn't play Path of Radiance, so you'll be seeing a lot of this early on. From what I've heard, this is much more heavy-handed in the normal mode script, so if you didn't see my video where I talk about the extended script, in the Japanese version this game had 2 scripts, and on normal mode you had a condensed, much more exposition-heavy, essentially a Cliff Notes for Dummies version of the script, and that's the one that they base the localization on, unfortunately. So be prepared to see a lot of heavy-handed exposition. Well, you dare stop them. And hey there, Soth. Soth knows firsthand, because he was there in the last war. Also, Nolan is back, and that means the Dawn Brigade is saved forever. Actually, Nolan and Soth together are the 2 saviors of the Dawn Brigade, at least for now. Ah, right, about that, we may have had something to do with that. Leonardo, I don't like you. You explain. Then again, who doesn't have run-ins with bandits in Fire Emblem? But they just happened to do it right where Bad Neon soldiers could see them and hear them, and, yeah. This is one of those, I don't want to get into the whole controversy over it, but one aspect where I think Micaiah comes across as decidedly not Suish is that she does make mistakes and own up to them. And yeah, in the last chapter, that line's actually true. I didn't use sacrifice, so maybe that was a good thing for story reasons. I might end up using it at some point during this chapter. I explained how sacrifice works in Micaiah's bio, because it's not just a story thing, it's also a gameplay skill. And this line from Soth too, I know you know but you keep doing it. Again, Micaiah does get called out on her mistakes quite often, but I'll leave it there for now. So, we have to go on the run now. Unfortunately, seems like this alley's kinda crowded. The trolls are all over the place. Thankfully, though, this is not a stealth mission. Yeah, we know how that went in Path of Radiance. The kitten? You know, Frumpkin could probably do it. And Micaiah's not kidding. This chapter does have reinforcements that spawn from your starting point. You need to keep moving here. Unfortunately, we can't wait for Soth. He would make this so much easier, but Nolan being here is good too. So, we have an escape chapter on our hands. A little bit of tactical advice from Nolan here. And this is pretty true too, but he'll get a lot better. And as we start this chapter, time to show off one of the best characters in the Dawn Brigade. Remember I said a lot of the Dawn Brigade are bad? Well, that does not apply to Nolan at all. Nolan is frankly amazing. Firstly, he's an axe user. You might remember from Path of Radiance that axes were very good there. Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. Axes are somehow even better in Radiant Dawn. So, using axes is an automatic positive for any character. Nolan also starts out with very good base stats, making him really easy to train. And on the higher difficulties, you want to train him. Even if you don't plan on bringing him to endgame, Nolan is such an invaluable asset to the Dawn Brigade during Part 3 and all of Part 1, that you will inevitably end up focusing a lot of attention on him. His defense growth is a little mediocre, but his high base combined with his good HP means that Nolan is one of the very few tanks the Dawn Brigade has. And this only gets better once he gets a special weapon in Part 3, though that's exclusive to the English version. But he also has fantastic speed for a fighter, so he doubles things easily with axes, and that's gonna hurt a lot. Good skill means that he hits and activates skills a lot. Nolan's one weakness might be his kind of low strength growth for a fighter, but he still has a very high base, and there is bonus experience to help fix that. Nolan also is the first character we're getting to have the amazing Earth Affinity. Now, if you thought Earth Affinity was good in Path of Radiance, oh boy, it's even better here, for reasons that I'll explain when we first have access to the base. Nolan's starting skill is also amazing, Nile. This does the exact same thing that it does in Path of Radiance. It ignores the effects of enemy combat-related skills. Now, in that game, Nile was nearly useless because almost no enemies had skills. In Radiant Dawn, Nile is one of the most valuable skills in the game, so you want to remember that Nolan has it. Trust me, it'll become important later. Very important. Nolan promotes to Warrior, and Warriors work a little differently in this game. Instead of using bows, they now use crossbows. I'll explain more about how crossbows work when we first start seeing them because they're a very unique weapon type, but I will say, crossbows combined with a certain skill that you can get in Part 1 makes for hilarious amounts of carnage in Part 3. Overall, Nolan is amazing, and even if you don't plan on bringing him to endgame, you're probably going to have to train him. The Dawn Brigade needs strong units desperately, and Nolan happens to be one of their strongest. And with that, I can talk about, well, more like just say, one of my childhood catchphrases. So, this guy over here, he uses lances. They have weapon trial disadvantage against Nolan. And with that, it's Nolaning time. Yes, I actually used to say that when I was younger when I had Nolan fight things. Because I thought Nolan was so awesome, he needs a catchphrase. Kinda wondering to myself who would voice Nolan if he was in Heroes. Anyway, now Edward does not want to go near this guy. I may have had a problem with that when I last attempted this chapter. Something to actually note about these early chapters, if we press start here. So this is an escape chapter. It's actually a defeat boss chapter on the Japanese normal or English easy mode. They actually change a few of the early game objectives around on the lowest difficulty, which is kind of interesting, which is how I wish Fates had handled it as well. But anyway, the defeat condition is what I want to draw your attention to. Any ally dies. So you don't need to worry about resetting if someone dies here, because the game will do it for you. And I feel like the reason why the game does this is because the Dawn Brigade needs all the help they can get. They're pretty weak at this point in the game, and if they lost even one character, well, maybe Leonardo, but it feels like the developers thought that if you lost Edward or Nolan at this point, these early chapters might be unbeatable, so they made it so that anyone dying is a game over here. And we have a bit of a conversation with the generic boss here. I'll show him after this turn is over. Going for Nolan, not Edward. Nolan is one of the best tanks in the Dawn Brigade. Well, in fact, let me just correct that. One of the only tanks in the Dawn Brigade, so he's invaluable early on. Even if you're not planning on training him, you'll probably see him used a lot, just because he's pretty much essential. One cool thing about this game is that because you keep switching between parties, a lot of characters end up being used, even if you don't fully plan on training them. Even in a speedrun, quite a lot of characters end up being used in Radiant Dawn. Nolan is not invincible though, but he can take a decent amount of punishment. And let's take you down. Because then we can visit this house, well, church more like, but we actually get an item out of it. It counts as a village. Oh, and I forgot to say it there. I guess I'll say it when I next have Nolan fight something. Okay, we have 3 enemies that are severely weakened, and 4 characters to move, so I guess finally we can see Leonardo kill something. I apologize to anyone who likes Leonardo, like I said in the last chapter, but I don't really plan on using him very much in this. He is decent for chip damage early on, though. Okay, so Nolan is going to need to heal. And wherever Edward goes, I don't want him to get attacked by 2 enemies. I feel like my best plan of action here is, in fact, to have Edward snipe this guy, Micaiah get the other one, and Nolan heal. So there are a few other things that I can talk about in this chapter regarding the overall gameplay. Yeah, Micaiah will get this guy. I could use Sacrifice here, but I won't. And this should be a level up for her, which is something that I plan to talk about for gameplay as well, if she does level up. You can press the A button, and that wasn't even a level up, to speed up the experience bar when a character gains experience. And, let me see, yeah, you have a vulnerary. Like I said in the last chapter, this game gives you a lot of healing items. And it's Nolaning time again. I feel like he might be voiced by Jameson Price if he was ever in Heroes. You aren't moving. Alright, let's see. Problem is Edward can't get over there without this soldier getting in range of him, and this soldier has weapon triangle advantage, so we'll need to watch out for that. But I think for now I will have Edward finish this guy off. Thought of something else to talk about, but I might mention that during the enemy turn. Let's see. I actually might be able to demo Sacrifice here, so let's go ahead and do that. Micaiah's low HP prevents her from healing a lot with Sacrifice, and here's the thing that I wanted to show. If you hold down the A button during a level up, yeah, you skip the animation and it just shows the stat increases. I'm getting a very good Micaiah in this one, which is kind of impressive. Let's go ahead and visit this, because Leonardo doesn't have much better to do. An axe! That'll be good, considering we just got one of the best axe users in the game. It's a hand axe, too, which lets Nolan attack from range, which would have been really useful right about now, but I'll be giving that to him soon. Thankfully, this archer only has a bronze bow, so he's not all that strong. And Nolan dodge anyway. I love that roll. Some of the classes have some pretty impressive battle animations in this game, at least in my opinion. And yeah, for those who are new to my videos, I like leaving battle animations on. I just think the game is so much more personal and interesting that way. Yeah, this guy's really not moving. I guess he is effectively blocking this corridor. So, yeah, you can finish that guy off. Let's go ahead and give Nolan the hand axe, and I also need to give Nolan the Draco Shield. I forgot that I gave it to Micaiah in the last chapter. I like having Nolan use the Draco Shield, because like I said, he's one of the only tanks in the Dawn Brigade, so he has a useful role, and improving that useful role is, well, useful. That was a mouthful, but I hope that made sense. Yeah, I think I'll have Nolan fight you. So you might notice that the battle music actually picks up right where it left off whenever you attack 2 or more enemies during the same turn. And the enemy phase battle themes do that too, so I kind of had a feeling that would happen. Yeah, I think I'll use Micaiah to finish the archer and have Nolan finish that guy on the enemy phase. I like that. It lets you hear more of these battle themes too. In many other Fire Emblem games, you only hear the full battle theme if a character got a level up. I also really like the first battle theme of this game. It's just called Dawn Brigade, but it's pretty cool. And it's at least to me the most iconic Dawn Brigade theme. It won't be their only battle theme, but I like it better than their other one. So we're clearing the way pretty decently. And I wanted you to do that. Edward should be leveling up again pretty soon. And yeah, that's not Wrath. Like I said in Edward's bio, getting Edward below 30% HP is surprisingly difficult early in the game. And that's going to be useful. I'll show you why that's useful when we get to the boss. Nolan is just dodging all the time here. Because he knows what time it is. We'll need to pick up the pace soon, so the bonus experience requirement for maximum... The turn requirement for maximum bonus experience in this chapter is 7, so I don't know if I'll be getting that, because I like to take these 2 enemies up here pretty cautiously. This guy has a hand axe, which means he can attack anyone who's in front of the boss, and the boss is not moving now, but I do know for a fact that on hard mode this guy does move. I may have learned that the hard way on my hard mode playthrough, so just be careful of that. No level for Edward, though. Did he gain strength again? No. Resistance is kind of lucky, but not the most useful of stats. I guess this is a fairly average Edward at this point. Nolan is so awesome that he has hit rates in the 70s against Myrmidons with axes. There really should be, like, Nolan facts, or something like that. People already call him Chuck Nolan. But, anyway... Also, really don't want to do that. Actually, do I want to do that? Huh. It's actually not that bad of a prospect. I think for now, I'll just have Nolan fight this guy. Okay, I'm willing to finish you off now. And... I don't want to lose experience on people that I plan on training, but it might be best to do this, actually. Okay, so I guess I can talk about this now. See that green up arrow on the enemy and the red down arrow on Leonardo? Let's discuss how Biorhythm works in this game. So you might remember Biorhythm from Path of Radiance. I hated it in that game. It's even worse in this game. So in that game, Biorhythm fluctuated every, I believe, 10 battles that a character fought in, and it ranged from plus or minus 5 hit and evasion. Not that much in the grand scheme of things. In Radiant Dawn, though, so firstly, every character has a different type of graph for Biorhythm, as you can see, but here's the thing. So Biorhythm in Radiant Dawn ranges from plus or minus 10 accuracy and evasion, meaning that if you're in worst and the enemy is in best, you're at minus 20% your hit and evade rates, which is an extremely significant thing, especially on hard. Due to the lack of the weapon triangle to mitigate it, I really, really hate Biorhythm on hard mode. And what's worse about Biorhythm is that it fluctuates every turn, and every character's starting Biorhythm position is randomized at the beginning of every chapter. On hard mode, if Nolan randomly is in worse Biorhythm at the start of a chapter, you might as well reset. It's that bad. So yeah, I hate Biorhythm in this game. I really don't know why they made it as ridiculous as they did. And, yeah, Biorhythm in this game is dumb. Thank goodness it never appeared again in the series. So we're down to just the boss. And while on the subject of Biorhythm, I guess I can talk about one other thing. Notice that that brown gemstone near the terrain indicator here. I also love the way the terrain indicator looks in this game. And notice how when I move over Nolan, his affinity is blinking. So Radiant Dawn has this kind of weird feature called map affinity. Every map has its own affinity associated with it, and if a character has the same affinity as a map, they get plus 5 their hit and evasion for the entire map. Usually, the map has the same affinity as a character who just joined in that chapter. In this case, the map is Earth affinity like Nolan, which makes the map awesome, because Earth affinity is awesome. And no crit against Micaiah, that's pretty nice, seeing how... wait a minute. Well, good, yeah. Herbs only heal 10 HP. And this guy's not going for Nolan, which is good. Ironically for you, she has enough luck to the point where you don't have a crit rate against her. This guy will drop his steel sword, and that's why I said that it was good that Edward just got a D rank in swords. Because he can use this now, and his iron sword's looking a little beat up, so I'm kind of glad that Edward will be able to get a new sword soon. But something I can show here, there's a lock on this guy's steel sword. The lock doesn't mean anything to us now. I'll explain more about how locked equipment works in the next chapter. But I'll just say, like I said, this doesn't affect us for now. So, yeah, you have a crit rate against Edward, so... Yeah, one thing to note is that Myrmidons get plus 5 critical in this game, and annoyingly it takes up a skill slot and can't be removed. Characters can only have a maximum of 6 skills, and that includes Shove and their innate critical bonuses, so later on in the game I might have to remove Edward's Wrath, because honestly, Wrath's not that good in this one. Alright, do I chip with Nolan, or do I chip with... Okay, you do 8, and then I believe Edward also does 8. Yeah, so maybe I should chip with... Although, admittedly, getting Nolan experience is better than getting, Leonardo experience, so I guess I can do this then. Oh, by the way, boss conversations happen on the map rather than in battle in this game. Kind of a weird change, but it's kind of cool. I like how there's a different version of the boss theme that plays on the map, and then you get the fully intense version in the actual battle. Now let's go ahead and whack you and finish you off. This is actually faster than I usually beat this map. And if this was easy mode, the map would be over now, but it's not. And I guess Micaiah can now go ahead and trade... Actually, wait, don't do that. Because she needs to move if I want to end this map now. An extra turn won't kill me. Let's just go ahead and do that, and let's just do sacrifice for some free experience. There's something later in this map that I want to show, and something that I can show now. Characters don't have escape quotes in Radiant Dawn. Oh, and I can't actually show it because, yeah. So eventually reinforcements will spawn from here, and if you take way too long, they'll spawn from here as well. You can wait them out for some experience, but that will cost you bonus experience. And I will say, it's worth your while to stockpile bonus experience for later in the game. Now, speaking of bonus experience, in this map... This map in particular, you don't get bonus experience from people besides Micaiah escaping. So as a proof of concept, I'll have everyone run before she does. But you don't need to do this. All you need to do is have Micaiah get out. In the next escape chapter, everyone who escapes is worth bonus experience. But this time, all you need to do is get Micaiah out. I like this song too. Oh, we're about to hear one of the best lines in the game. Best in inverted commas, but it's still pretty infamous. It's also a line that I feel obliged to voice act because who wouldn't? Blending with the crowd might not be such a good idea given how civilian kill happy these soldiers are. Oh no. This is not the time, adoring fan. We won't be alright if you... And here's the line, moldy onions, where'd they go? One of the best generic soldier lines in this game. There's another good one that happens later on in this part. Micaiah, stop it, run! If you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, I guess. However, a vision. As always, it's vague, but we have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. Leaving NPC villagers alone with enemy soldiers is not going to end well. Yeah, this is not going to do well for your reputation. So that skill works in cutscenes just as well as it does in gameplay. I feel like the way that the villagers are reacting saying this name made more sense in the Japanese version when this skill was called Healing Hands. But it cost Micaiah's own HP, so Soph has to get her out of there. She's probably pretty weak after that. According to, like, developer info, the way Sacrifice works is it literally transfers the wound onto Micaiah's body, so Micaiah is now injured in the exact same way Nico was. Oh great, this guy's here. Three guesses what Jared's about to do, and the first two don't count. So, Micaiah saved one kid at the cost of 3 adults. I'll leave you to judge whether that was worth it. And Navasa still looks as ominous as it does back when Ashnard ruled it. I've never seen it from this angle before. Well, I mean, the good news is Micaiah can't die to Sacrifice, so there's that. The obligatory chase out of our home portion of the game. They got to this one pretty quickly, though. And yeah, this dialogue feels so heavy-handedly tell, don't show. It must be another case of the normal mode script. I haven't seen much translations of the extended script for the early chapters, but I definitely feel like they expanded on this a lot more and weren't as heavy-handed with this kind of stuff. And yes, as you can see here, no bonus experience for people escaping, besides Micaiah, so you don't need to worry about that. And I believe that's the maximum bonus experience you can get from this chapter. It's low now. We'll be getting much, much more bonus experience come later in the game. We'll be getting thousands at a time, and that's because it costs a lot more to level up in this one, but that'll be for later. For now, though, we've successfully escaped and saved a child's life. What's next for the Dawn Brigade? Find out next time. So we have 2 fighters over here. I usually find that if I put Edward here, he doesn't take that much damage from the javelin. Well, not enough for him to die to the soldier, at least. Okay, so moment of truth time. I'm pretty sure Edward will survive this turn. Actually, wait, does the javelin do 11 damage? It may do 11 damage. I might have made a horrible mistake here. Well, we'll find out. But first, it's Nolaning time. Again. Nolan is pretty much your best tank at this point, so he should probably be taking the head of the formation. Oh, please don't do 11 damage. Well, that was badly judged.